sei tu che guidi?
Sono io.
Eh?
Sono io. Aspettiamo un attimo. Sì, se ci sono delle domande in tedesco o inglese, sì. Sì. Okay, thank you. Let's start, please. Buonasera a tutti, benvenuti alla conferenza stampa.
Welcome to the press conference of Occhiali Neri here with the Berlinale special. I would like to introduce you to our guests today, and I will begin with the other end of the table here. We have Massimiliano Orfei. Then we have producer Laurentina Guidotti. Producer Conchita Airoldi. Actress and director, screenwriter, and maybe other things, I'm not quite sure. Producer as well, Asia Argento. Then the protagonist of the film, Ilenia Pastorelli.
Dario Argento.
And Dario Argento.
Prego, ci sono già domande? Vai.
Do we already have questions? Let's go.
Ich bin Marc Arapetian, Herausgeber des Filmmagazins Spirit, ein Lächeln im Sturm.
I
Erstmal Gratulation, Maestro Argento. It's an honor to talk to you.
Editor of Spirit, a magazine, and I'd like to first of all congratulate you on the film, and I'm asking my questions here in German. I'm a huge fan, and the film Deep Red was one of my favorite films ever, and I also like this film, but this is different. It's also different from the other films. It has a very personal ending. And especially the scenes also with the dog is something I really liked. I also have a dog, and I have a dog, half a wolf, and his name is Felix. And was it easy or difficult to shoot with a dog? And do you have dogs, and what kind of dogs? And I'd also like to ask Mr. Argento, have you become a more personal person with old age? Because it's a strong beginning, but it's nearly a happy ending, and I really liked it. Yes, a happy ending, but also it's very sad. Certainly. And the dog, it wasn't difficult to work with the dog. It was very easy, maybe because he'd been trained well, or because it was a good thing to have this feeling, and to, even if we had then these violent scenes, but nevertheless it was very easy to work with the dog. I was afraid of the dog. I was afraid it wouldn't do what he wouldn't do what he should do, but I've always been lucky with animals. And I remember with Phenomena, I had a chimpanzee, and it actually worked very well and did exactly what we told him to do. And we said, OK, open the window, and he opened the window, and then, go along down the stairs, and then he'd do it, and so on and so forth. So I don't know how come, but, well, I thought, well, working with animals is actually much better than working with actors. It's easier. They are more obedient. And, of course, that's not true. it's much better to work with actors rather than dogs, or actors who are dogs.
Grazie.
Thank you.
I am Francisco. I am Brazilian. First of all, congratulations to the whole crew. I loved the movie. I have actually two questions. One of them is that I've read that your mother was Brazilian, and I wanted to confirm if it's true or not that you were inspired by stories from Macumba in some level. Second question is, I see you're back to doing amazing film titles. I would like to know, where do you get the inspiration for that?
Quali titoli?
Which titles?
I titoli dei film.
Oh, you mean the film titles? Well, that's not very special, really, because here we have the black glasses the protagonist wears. But it's true, yes, my mother was Brazilian. She was born in Porto Alegre, and she lived partially in Rio de Janeiro and partly in São Paulo. And she lived there for many years. And later she returned already. She came to Italy with the family. And then she started to work as a photographer, and she became very famous. And she specialized in portraits of actors, especially film actors, especially women. And she was the one who explained things to me, because 80% of the things of the actors in my films are women or are young children, or also adult women, like in this film. And my mother was my inspiration with the women. I saw what women did, and I saw how she saw the light. And I'm very. It's very interesting to be of Brazilian origin. I go to Brazil every now and then. I have a family over there, and it's a country I love. Although sometimes the political regime is not very satisfying. I'm not too happy with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. Hi, Christian Pogatetz from the Austrian magazine Anker. I have a question for Mr. Argento. You've known to be a master of your genre, and with your influence, I'd like to know how you feel about the current state of horror cinema. I mean, in recent years, there's been quite a few changes, and even the semi-resurgence of the giallo film, with filmmakers like Edgar Wright or James Wan trying to pay homage to elements that were spawned by your movies. So how do you feel about all that? Thank you.
Sì, io sono sempre sulla mia strada.
I'm always on my own path. So I have this street ahead of me, and I can't see the end of it. It's very, very long. And of course, I've already gone a long way so far, and I'm still continuing down that road. I'm making films. I do thrillers or horror films, or detective stories, a bit of everything, the giallo. So it's a moment of inspiration. At the moment, I made a horror thriller. Well, it's also very emotional and full of ancient feelings. Motherhood, fatherhood. So these are very old feelings. And they're still running high in our own subconscious.
My name is Mahar Sigit, African Refugee News. I parlo l'italiano.
I'm going to speak in Italian. I still have the chills because 50 years ago, I lived in Rome. I was living there, and I think that it's a God's gift because you really know how to do films. And now I have a question for Asia. What's it like to be the daughter of such a famous father? When I was in Rome, I remember that when people spoke about him, they really spoke very highly of him, and I'd like to know what this relationship was like. Well, thank you for these kind words about my father, who really is a man who's very special, a gift for the cinema. And for me, of course, it's also a gift to have a father like him. My father doesn't like to be sentimental, but I think maybe with this film he's opened up a little bit. So he's opened up his big heart, which he's always had. And although he kept it out of his film so far. But it's really a privilege to have grown up with a father who was an artist, but who was also there as a father. And he was able to connect these two things, to combine them. So he's a great artist, and at the same time, he also had time for his two young girls, his daughters, because when I was 14 years old, then he started taking over and caring for me and my sister. And so this is really something. He's a person who really is has earned all this, all these celebrations here in Berlin, and all the awards he never got in Italy up to this day. Rather, the awards are all his fans and the spectators, so maybe that would be a good thing. We celebrate this great artist who has really given sentiments everywhere over the world. I'd like to ask something. I know that recently you have said that you're not very much interested anymore in being an actress. No, that was said in 2013. That's not a recent thing. But, you know, you were working. Yeah, I had already worked with my father. I had worked, and I started working again first before I made films with my father. I had a very small role, but of course there's no such thing as a small role, only small actors, as it has been said. But I think if you have been in a job for 37 years and then at the age of 46, maybe you need a little break so that you can then have fun again, and so that you can do things as you should do them with, you know, passion. And I mean, this is a privilege to have this kind of a job. And you really have to be passionate about it. You need respect. And after so many years, I had the feeling that then I had become a little bit mechanical. So I wasn't doing the films properly for the right motivation, but just to earn money. And this has changed now, and now I'm really feeling like doing films again. Now, I think it's also important to ask what this role in a film of Dario Argento's actually meant for you, a role which was not very simple. I think you had to prepare quite well, Ilenia. You can hear me? Okay, you can't see me, but you can hear me? Yes. Well, I was called one evening, so Dario called me. I think, well, it wasn't late, it was 7 or 8 in the evening. And so his assistant called me and said, yeah, he'd really like me to see Dario Argento. I thought it was a joke, you know, Dario Argento. And when I met him, then I met a man who was a very simple man, very humble and very kind, very open. And he made me feel comfortable. And so it was easy for me. It was a very natural thing. And it was really quite a surprise when he phoned me. It was a great honor. Thank you.
gerne Ilenia Pastorelli.
I'd also like to ask Ilenia Pastorelli about her role It reminded me of Gloria a bit with Gina Rowlands, because she also, moved around with a little boy, and you are a call girl with a big heart. But on the other hand, there's also some fear. So how did you prepare? Did you ever meet proper call girls to see how they work and what their job is like, their profession? I suppose the film was shot in COVID times, but did you have any kind of feedback or some tips? No, it wasn't an easy period, not even for escort girls, because with the COVID times, well, but first of all, I tried to prepare rather for the aspect of not being able to see, so being blind. So I met I met one woman who was blind from when she was born, and then I met another woman who had had an accident exactly like the protagonist of the film. So that was something complicated. I had to learn how to gesticulate and how to control my eyesight, because normally, we have when we have color or we hear something, we usually turn around. But being blind, you wouldn't do that. So I worked a lot on that. And then, as a prostitute, I think that every woman, now I'm saying something very, very strong, but I suppose that every woman has a prostitute in herself. Some of them only show it with their husband, somebody with their lovers. But, that wasn't an aspect which was tremendously complicated. I think we need to be a bit freer also regarding sex now in 2022. Now, the mother was a prostitute. Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, it's because I think I spoke very fast, so something may have gotten lost in the translation. My question was if it's true that your mother told you ghost stories, like from witchcraft from Brazil, from the religion Macumba, and that was in a way an inspiration. Thank you very much.
Ma sì, lei mi ha parlato di queste.
Yes, she did talk about these things.
Mi ha parlato di esperimenti, di
She talked about experiments,
casi eccezionali.
exceptional cases.
Mi ha raccontato che
And several cases she told me that she had gone to,
un santo era che
I think, a saint,
quando l'ha vista gli ha detto attenta al tuo marito, stai
who then said, okay, be careful with your husband. But she, she wasn't a believer.
Invece in quel momento mio padre aveva un
But, my father then had an accident, a car accident, where he lost his leg. Anyway, it got crushed. And I knew other stories from Macumba, but they haven't really had an impact on cinema. Because she just, she was quite light about it. It was the kind of a joke.
non mi hanno impressionato.
So it wasn't anything that really had an impact on me.
Io avrei una domanda per il produttore.
I have a question for the producer.
Come è nata questa?
Can you tell us how this cooperation arose?
Sono Dario,
So was it the phone ringing, hi, here's Dario, and I want to have a film done? Was it that way? Well, let's say that this film was born because of Asia, thanks to her, because she sorted out Dario's papers, and she found the script, which had been written years ago. She read it, she liked it, and she proposed it to Wybranch in France, because they were producers and distributors she knew very well. And they then got in touch with Laurentina and me, because we represent them in Italy. And they said, okay, we'd like to do this film. Are you ready to do that? And we said, of course. And that's how it started. And then we started collecting the money. And we managed to get the funds, and then we went to Maxi Division, and he read the script. We went to see him, and he said immediately, "Yes, I want to do it." Was that the way it worked, Max? Yeah, that's true. But even before reading the script, I said, I had the yes within. But of course, I mean, it's a privilege to work with a master like Dario Argento, and he is a monument of Italian cinema. And of course, we owe so much to Dario. So of course, beginning from on the 24th of February, which was the first global production of this film, we said, okay, we've always been behind the film, and I must say thank you, Master, and may the cinema live, and we want to show it in the theatres, and with black glasses, we want to see masses of spectators back in the cinema theatres. I'd like to add something. As women, Conchita and me, we were very proud to make a film which maybe seems to be a very masculine film, but it's completely focused on femininity and how women live every day, how they live their lives.
I have a question to you. As a master of horror, what are the biggest fears that you have?
Bella questa.
Sì, questa non è una domanda nuovissima.
That's not a very new question. I've been asked by many, many people. I don't have more fear than anybody else. So I don't know whether there is any phobia, no particular animals or anything, no. I'm lucky. I'm not afraid. I have the normal fear anybody would have. Somebody might attack me, or I don't know. Anybody may fear that. To fall ill or something, which is something today, nowadays, of course, would be quite frequent. I mean, to be afraid of falling ill. No, I don't have very many particular deep fears. Just, I have fears coming from within me, sometimes very simple things. Not huge things. Depending on how you tell these stories, they can become enormous. And it can be an obsession. That's the kind of fear I have. And what inspired me in my work, also for many of my old films, the expressionism, or afraid of shadows, of certain changing perspectives. So deeper fears, not those simple ones we all have.
I'm Yuri Samusenko from Ukraine. I have two questions actually for Mr. Argento. The first one, is it different, do you have different approach directing your daughter rather than other actor and actresses? And the second one is about your project Longinus TV series. What's the process right now? What's the state of this project right now? Thank you.
Well, my daughter and the other actors, that's the same thing for me. When we're on the set, then we're not father and daughter. Absolutely not. I'm the director, she's the actress. We talk, sometimes we quarrel, but no. The only thing that in the evening when we leave, then maybe she'll say, "Bye-bye, Dad." So she's the only one who'd say Dad to me. Now, on these TV series, it's not been done yet. Nothing which would be something deeply radical within me. For me, these TV series, everybody likes, everybody goes mad about them and say, "Oh, I saw this series, and yeah, you have to see it all," and so on. No, I don't. I'm not like that. I don't like that. I find they're banal. They're stupid. Slow. It's stuff, well. So, okay. Well, I did want to say that. Now in Ukraine, that's such a difficult moment. I hope that everything will go fine. Now, talking about the cinema and TV series, Dario, I'd like to ask you something. This is also a film where I believe this is a piece of work of yours which is very, very strong, a kind of architecture which is like somehow an atmospheric architecture. We have Rome in the summer, and then on the other hand, it's light, and then we go out into the countryside, which is somehow darker, more of a night scene. Was that one of your main ideas in the film? And of course, that would also maybe be whatever you brought to the beginning of the film. I mean, there I had the feeling that we had this homage to Antonioni, but maybe that's a mistake. No, that's not a mistake, of course. I did want to pay tribute to Rome. And it's been very important for my career. Rome is so different from a certain neighborhood to another neighborhood. And you have this neighborhood where Piana lives, and it seems to be like a little village, just a village. But then you have other moments, and especially in the second part of the film, everything, is in the countryside around Rome. And people don't know the countryside, but it's very, very interesting. It's not like in Tuscany, which is so beautiful. And, just you have these beautiful views and nice shade. No, the countryside around Rome is full of stones, and it's you have forests, quite wild. It's not so beautiful to see, but it has a character of its own. It's very, very strong, very intense. And so the second half of the film with this blind girl going into there and then scratching herself and bumping into trees in this coarse landscape, that's something I really enjoyed doing. I have a question on a classical work of yours, Deep Red. You worked with David Hemmings, who looked like Oscar Werner, and I think Antonioni also wanted to use him, and then he said no, he didn't like the script, and he took David Hemmings because he looked like him. Do you remember David Hemmings? I thought he did it very well, but what do you say? What do you think? I had a very good relationship with David Hemmings. It began in a strange manner because I saw photographs of him sent by his agent, and he had a certain kind of beauty there. And then I met him, and we met up in Piazza Verona in Rome, and Hemmings had put on a lot of weight, so he had grown fat, and I saw him completely differently. So I was completely astonished, and he realized, and he said, "Look, you can see that I'm a bit fat now, but well, don't worry. In 3 or 4 weeks before the film begins, I'll be in good shape." And I trusted him, and it worked. And then we remained friends for very many years until, unfortunately, he died. And I find something very interesting, the fact that you cooperated with Franco Farini again. You had done Phenomena with him and episodical films with Romero. And then you returned and started cooperating with him again. No, that's not the way it worked. It had already been decided in 2011. No, even before, in the 1990s. Well, anyway, during that period of time, I'd already signed with him. And then during lockdown, when everything had shut down, I started modernizing it, giving it a more current shape or aspect. But we had already written the script together. Last question, please.
Good evening, Christian Klose of Indie Kino Berlin. Possibly I'm overthinking this now, but your film's obviously partially known for very stylish, very sleek black gloves, and now you made the signature item of the killer a very mundane white van. Was that an intentional joke or an irony?
Yes, yeah, that's true. We have the bad guy with a white, with this white van, and it's funny that that should be so dangerous because usually you have goods being transported in it, but in this film it's the monster. And of course I chose it on purpose, an anonymous white van. And then there's this spirit inside, and I was inspired to do this by certain American films about cars. Greenhouse. I'm thinking of Quentin Tarantino here, and other films, American films, where you have cars, wild cars. Duel, for example, where you have this huge van. But yeah, I just decided on this aspect of an anonymous van, which wouldn't make anybody afraid because it's white, it's not huge, it doesn't seem dangerous, but it is very, very dangerous on the contrary. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Dario Argento. Thank you, Ilenia Pastorelli, Asia Argento, and the producers. Thank you, everybody.